The ancient Sumerians, the creators of the first civilization, told a myth about its origins. It was, they said, a devil's bargain. It offered the noblest ideals of humanity, but it also brought violence, greed, and destruction. All of this is civilization, the Sumerian god of wisdom told humanity. And if you wish its benefits, you must take all of its qualities. And once taken, you cannot give them back. It is for you to use with restraint and with wisdom. Now, what do you suppose we have to use restraint and wisdom with? Hey, good to see you guys. Didn't lose that guy lately, have you?
No, he's been fine.
You better stay close. What are they referring to here? Well, believe it or not, when they talk about the beginning of civilization, what they're really referring to is the discovery of fire. Now, even though these two events did not coincide with one another chronologically, they still consider the discovery of fire as the beginning of civilization for the simple reason that we never would have become civilized had it not been for the discovery of fire. In other words, the Greeks and many others had a penchant to go back to the first cause. And once you go back to the first cause, you realize that if we didn't make that mistake, none of the other mistakes would have pursued or followed afterwards. So in order to understand civilization, let's put the human existence on a football field. That's 100 yards, not quite as far as 100 meters, and it's the same concept. If it's 100 yards, we can convert to percentages to make this easy to understand. But when we use yards, there are 3 feet in a yard, and there are 12 inches in a foot. So when we look at the human existence as a football field, we discovered fire around the 87-yard line, about 13 yards away from where we are today. And then we didn't move into cities until around the 3-inch line. And we never would have moved into cities if it wasn't for the third thing that we mastered, and that's the agricultural revolution. That's when we moved into farm communities on the 6-inch line. So let's put everything in perspective. About 2 million years ago, our brains nearly doubled in size, going from just under 400 cc's to almost 800 cc's. And that would be around the 66.7-yard line. We'll round up and say it's the 67-yard line. It's when our brains doubled in size. We were able to do things we had never done before. And I've identified 5 things that we mastered that drastically changed the fate of mankind. The first mistake we made happened a long time after our brains doubled in size. In fact, we went 20 more yards on this football field, another 1.2 million years down to the 87-yard line before we finally mastered the first of 5 things we mastered. That's when we discovered fire. Now, we went a long time before we made a bad application. We went another 12 yards on this football field all the way down to the 99-yard line, or 1 yard away from where we are today. We made the first bad application to the first thing we mastered. It's the fall of mankind. That's the beginning of the end for our society. That's the first of 5 made mistakes based on 5 things we mastered. First thing we mastered with that brilliant brain was the fire. So that's the advent of civilization. Had we never mastered fire, we never would have then mastered animals. That's the second mistake we made. We were able to hunt them by setting the forest on fire and then going down and setting them on fire and eating them. The third mistake, okay, now go back to that first mistake. That's the 1-yard line, 3 feet away from where we are today. We started eating animals consistently on the 2.5-foot line. We ate them as far back as the 83-yard line, but not consistently because we didn't have fire available until the 2.5-foot line. Then we went another 2 feet all the way down to the 6-inch line. That's the agricultural revolution. That's when we started eating plants that were not biologically adapted to eat. But if you cook them and alter them, we can kill the anti-nutrients, and now we can eat them without them killing us immediately. Just takes longer now. So we moved into farm communities on the 6-inch line. That's because of the agricultural revolution. That's what set up moving into cities, and that's the definition of civilized. You're civilized when you move into a city. That only happened 5,000 years ago. But when we moved into cities, we already had 3 mistakes under our belts. We already had problems. We were out of control, all because of the first mistake. If you don't understand the significance of the first mistake, you don't understand anything. You don't even understand why we moved into cities. Again, if we never would have started, if we never actually, it's not so much the discovery of fire. Again, this is the advent of civilization. There's great things that come from the discovery of fire. But with all new knowledge comes the potential for evil if we apply it to knowledge of how to live. When you spell live backwards, it's evil. That's what they meant back then. That's how evil exists in this world. When we don't live according to natural laws, we're in violation of our laws. And we hear this message in all these great books of old. There's only one law, laws of nature. We're eating out of our species-specific diets. And we're not supposed to cook food, period. That's the biggest mistake of all. That's what changes our mentality. That's what creates the hell we're in right now. So again, if you don't understand the importance of not cooking our food, you don't understand anything. You won't understand anything about health. You won't understand anything about disease. You're going to be formally miseducated if you get a degree in nutrition. I don't care if you get a PhD in nutrition, you're still going to be misdirected. You go into medicine, I don't care if you go into functional medicine, you're still going to be misdirected. You're going to be told horrible things about the only thing that's going to get us out of the hole we're in right now is to recognize the significance of that very first mistake we made, the cooking of our food. That's what set up everything else. So now that we have moved into cities, we have more and more laws. Laws really didn't come about until we moved into farming communities. So even though grain-eating nations surpassed all the meat-eating nations in every area except their obsession with sex and warlike tendencies, they're still making mistakes, and we can do a lot better. So if we're going to really see any significant changes in our lives, we got to take a more quantum leap approach. My first approach was to stop eating the animals. Good first approach, but don't stop there. We got to stop cooking our food. That's the biggest mistake of all. And you're going to hear a lot of nonsense out there from people who now have PhDs in nutrition and they don't know anything. And they brag about it like, oh, this means something. That doesn't mean anything to a person who's informed. Having a PhD in nutrition does not impress anybody who knows anything about what's going on. Otherwise, why do we have so many different opinions? And as I've mentioned many times in my videos, I could, at any moment, at any time, create dozens of diets where two of them are diametrically opposed from one another. And they're all going to get better results than the average diet just by getting the processed foods out of our diet. So you're going to hear people say, well, what's the cause of this? And they'll list off 20 things that are processed foods. Well, let's make it simple. We're making 5 main mistakes. Number 1, cooking our foods. Number 2, eating animals, not biologically adapted to eat. Number 3, we're eating plants we're not biologically adapted to eat. Agricultural revolution. Number 4, industrial revolution. We're processing our foods. Correct that one mistake and every diet in the world is going to look like it's a great diet. And when you hear people who act like they know what they're talking about, they're going to say, yeah, change your lifestyle factors, and then they'll list 20 things you shouldn't eat, and it's all processed foods. And of course, the chemicals are a no-brainer. We shouldn't be using pesticides and growing our food on with artificial fertilizer. But the main thing we shouldn't do is to cook our food. We're never going to really put a dent in society the way it is right now if we don't recognize the ramifications that come from altering our food with fire. It changes it on every level. I've done a whole lot of videos explaining all of this over and over and over, why we shouldn't cook our food. And I know that's hard for the average person to understand. That's why you have to take a solid food vacation. And be careful about people who talk about things they don't know anything about. I heard some guy talking about if you do a cleanse, you're going to run out of glycogen, and then you're going to start burning fat, and the fat soluble toxins are going to cause problems. I talk about why water fasting is potentially dangerous for some people because of all the environmental toxins. Remember, 5 main mistakes. 5th mistake, chemical revolution. That's made a solid food vacation on water more difficult for most people because, yeah, the liver has a 2-phase process it goes through. I did a special video on 3 ways the liver cleanses the body, and one of them is a 2-phase process where the first phase converts the fat-soluble toxins into water-soluble toxins so they can get rid of them, and out the body they go. But we need certain things to have. We have to have certain things to make that happen. We don't get them on a water fast, but we do on a juice fast. And you don't kick in gluconeogenesis or ketosis or anything like that where the body's going to be burning an accelerated amount of fat. I heard some clown bragging about a degree he doesn't have and another degree he's going to get, and he's trying to impress everybody by spatting out all the stuff he's been learning now. It's really sad. I get a kick out of people who are in nutrition school and they're learning all this new stuff and they think they're just so smart, and they have no idea there's another library of knowledge that they may have read a few of the books in that library, but most of them they have no idea exist. And then they go on and on like they're some sort of expert. And then they say, I'm infuriated when people do this. Well, I'm infuriated with people like you who think you know it all and you don't have a clue as to what the real cause of disease is. Just like people in functional medicine, you end up calling a subsequent cause the cause of disease. Anyway, folks, disease is based on toxicities and deficiencies. In order to heal, you got to detoxify and rebuild. You start with a detoxification process first. Don't be fooled by people who don't know anything. They're just in school, they don't have a degree in anything. Even if they had a degree, who cares? They're going to be misdirected. It's going to be harder for those guys to think outside the box than anyone else. You don't put new wine in an old container. You don't give stupid blanket recommendations for people and say you shouldn't do a cleanse because you got to build the body up first. What a stupid comment. God, I was infuriated by that comment because it's just the opposite. How many pounds of fruits and vegetables can you eat in 2 weeks? How many pounds of fruits and vegetables are you going to juice in 2 weeks? Oh, you can't detoxify until you deal with the nutritional basis first. Poppycock. Our body wants a solid food vacation more than anything. And most of us, the reason why we have SIBO, the reason why we have bacteria growing in our small intestines is because they're filthy. The bacteria is a consequence of disease or of our mistakes, not the cause. They do become a subsequent cause, and now nutritionists can identify and they think they know what's going on. Get rid of that. Well, what caused it? Oh, the processed foods. No. Things that are inside. Disease is, again, toxicity deficiency. There are things inside of us that don't belong there. Anything that gets inside of us that doesn't belong there, or that is part of our elimination process and doesn't get rid of, is going to cause a problem. We have exogenous toxins and endogenous toxins. The exogenous toxins come from outside of our environment. But most of our problems come from our own endogenous toxins. Our cells have to eat and they eliminate. And when that stuff, it doesn't get filtered, it backs up into the system. That's the disease process. And it goes through stages trying to heal itself. I explained in my video, Healing Secrets Revealed, that there are 2 short-term self-limited diseases and 4 long-term stages of disease. And if you look at the first of the long-term stages of disease, it's inflammation. And this clown said, inflammation causes other diseases. No, it doesn't. That's a subsequent cause, like diabetes. So diabetes causes blindness. It causes gangrene. No, it doesn't. It's a subsequent cause. You got to go back to the first cause. Why do we have waste matter backing up? Why do we have things inside of it that doesn't belong there? Well, we have a leaky gut. Well, if we have a leaky gut, where does that stuff go to? It goes into the lymph system. That's how it gets into the cells. We have 2 bathrooms, folks. We have 1 big pipe system that's filthy. You need to clean it out. That's the first step. So many people can't even absorb nutrients. It doesn't do any good to feed someone if they say, oh, we got to address the deficiency issue first so they can have the liver can cleanse itself. Well, what if you can't absorb the nutrients? The more you feed the sick person, the more you harm them. People don't understand this concept. You can't give a blanket recommendation. And I don't give a blanket recommendation that everyone does a solid food vacation on juices. What I suggest is you cleanse as fast as your body will allow you. Keeping in mind that you can't go from 5 to 10 grams of fiber to 50 or 60, or even if you're a vegetarian and now you want to add more fruits and vegetables, they're still more water rich. You're going to have a hard time getting enough volume. And that is what's going to end up running out of carbohydrates and energy. So when you do a juice fast properly, when you do a solid food vacation the right way, you only do it if your body can handle that toxic load, and most people can. Keeping in mind that we're consuming 2-3 times the quantity of fruits and vegetables on a juice cleanse than we are on a water fast. So if you recommend that we take 14 days of eating fruits and vegetables before you go on a juice fast, you don't know what you're talking about. Within 1 week, you're going to consume the same amount of, or within 3 or 4 days even, you might consume the amount of juice, fruits and vegetables as you would in 2 weeks. To say you're not addressing the deficiency issue is ridiculous. Once again, you change as fast as your body will allow you. Everyone's unique and everyone's different. Almost everyone can take a solid food vacation on juices, but you got to drink enough to keep your carbohydrate fuel tank full. So this guy who attacked juicing is all based on a straw man, because the argument he used, I could take any diet in the world and say the same thing that he says. If you don't consume enough, that's the only way that's going to happen. If someone's promoting a juice fast and they're not drinking enough, yeah, that's wrong. But then to try to make it look like all juice fasts are wrong because you're not addressing the deficiency issue and you're going to run out of glycogen and you're going to start burning fat, yeah, that's not even what happens. It's not what happens on gluconeogenesis. It goes after lean body tissue first to make up the glycogen. And that's the reason why these ketose diets work, because they're so high in animal protein, up to 58% of excess dietary protein can be used instead of eating your lean body tissue. But to say you shouldn't do a juice cleanse because you're going to detox your fat too quickly, that's only on a juice fast that's done incorrectly. So I could say that to any diet. You do a vegan diet, you don't eat enough calories, you're going to have the same problem. It's ridiculous. So the only reason why what he said would happen would be if you didn't drink enough juice. But again, that means the problem isn't the juicing, it's not enough juice. And every diet can be done wrong. It's ridiculous. It makes me think this guy's controlled opposition. But I only watched a couple of his videos, and I'm not impressed with people who speak to impress, to try to say, oh, I've got this, and I've got this, and I've got this. But it impresses a lot of people, I understand. Anyway, we have to understand that things have changed. We don't live in an ideal world anymore, do we? We're living in cities. We're not meant to live in cities. Now we have 5 mistakes under our belts. Most people are oblivious to it. I'm excited when people stop making that second mistake. Love it. But the rest of you vegans, a lot of you guys are sick because you're still eating processed foods and you're still eating conventional produce. So what you're going to hear now from the nutritional community who promote veganism, they're just going to say stop eating the processed foods and eat organic food, but they're still going to tell you to eat grains, foods we're not biologically adapted to eat, and cook your food. So you're not going to learn what you need to learn if you go get a degree in nutrition. You're not going to learn anything there. There's another library of knowledge that they don't teach doctors or nutritionists. And I know a lot of people have read a few of those other books, but very few of you have read the ones that will help you understand the real disease process. 2 short-term self-limited diseases, 4 long-term stages of disease. Goes through stages, inflammation. What was it, Pericles, was it back in the 1500s? He said inflammation is what causes all other diseases. Andrew Weil, that's what he says, inflammation causes all other diseases. And now this nutritionist, not yet one, he's a student, doesn't have a degree in it yet. Now he's saying the same thing. My friends, our experts are not our experts. We have to realize that. It's not that complicated once you understand we're not supposed to cook our food. It gets very simple then. But you have to understand we don't live in that ideal world anymore. We have another group of needs. Our society is severely damaged. Look at the world we live in. The environment's been damaged. Individually, we've abused ourselves and done some damage to ourselves too. A lot of it's just temporary impairment, and it can be healed. It's a simple solution to get out of the rut we're in. We all have to play a role and be a lot better. First step for many people is to go vegetarian. It's a great first step. That's the first step I took. But don't settle for less. And don't think you're going to detox on any level eating fruits and vegetables. And don't think that you have to prepare for a solid food vacation. In most cases, you don't. Just do it. And you'll know right off the bat if you're cleansing too quickly. If you can't support your organs of elimination, then you're going too quick. So I explain all this in my other videos. I have a 2-hour seminar on how to take a solid food vacation on juices the right way. I have 28 related videos. My mission in life is to help wake us up. I get infuriated when people talk badly about something they don't know about and say that you can't address the deficiency issue at the same time on a juice cleanse as you do the toxicity issue. You can't address the deficiency issue any better way than with juices, because you're consuming so much more. That's why I tell everybody, you have to test an idea as time has come. You got to go the distance. You have to get that aha moment, because when you have that aha moment, that's when you're in for a treat.